Oh, good morning and welcome to my mobile session. Congratulations, I think, first off. You guys are lucky ones. There's a queue snaking out around the building, around the block a couple of times. I don't think they're here to see me, but anyway, if they are, congratulations, you've made a seat. My name's Nick Comiskey. I'm from Google's mobile team, and I've got a couple of responsibilities within Google, but today's responsibility is really helping retailers and the broader participants in the digital space understand what mobile is happening for consumers today, how consumers are adopting, what that means for businesses who do or don't have a mobile presence, and really having a sneak peek at the future to see what's coming around the corner, especially around mobile commerce and payments. Within Google, I look after specifically the mobile specialist area for retail and CPG or FMCG verticals. So a lot of businesses I work with, be them pure play like Amazon or multi-channel like John Lewis, all have similar questions around mobile. What should we be doing? What should our mobile strategy look like? But most importantly, how are our customers going to be engaging with mobile today, tomorrow, and in 5 years' time? Let's see if we can answer some of those questions. As I said, these are the areas I'll be looking at. Adoption of commerce, the m-commerce landscape. We'll do a little bit around the overall mobile landscape. How consumers are embracing mobile commerce, and then who's already doing it well. So, where are we? We are having an internet step change as more and more consumers, both in the developed and developing world, access the internet via their mobile phones. We mustn't forget the developing world. More and more consumers are accessing the internet for the first time via a mobile phone, and now engaging with advertising for the first time, digital advertising, as a result of seeing ads on mobile. What do we know about mobile? So, I'd be surprised. In fact, I'd ask you to leave if you didn't have a mobile phone in your pocket, or two mobile phones in this room. Has anybody got a mobile phone that's bigger than their pocket? Okay, that's good. Maybe one little hand. As we can see, we are in the midst of a smartphone evolution. And the beauty of smartphones and mobile phones in general is their ubiquity. Everybody has one or two. But also their very personal nature. So if anybody in this room was asked to swap phones with a stranger sitting next to them and go into their phone book or message book and send a message to somebody on their phone, you'd be a little bit reticent to do that. To that end, we see it at a micro level. Philippa Grogan would rather give up a kidney than her mobile phone. But also at a much higher level, President Obama, when he joined office, was really quite torn about giving up his BlackBerry. So we know that that mobile ubiquity and the personal nature of the mobile is a reason why consumers look at their mobile phone and say, hey, this is one of the most important devices in my life. A question for you all. Are there more more mobile phones or more toothbrushes in the world? Who thinks there's more toothbrushes on the planet than there are mobile phones? Okay, maybe a loaded question. Few hands. It came out last week, and this isn't from some two-bit report by some third-rate analyst house. This is from Mike Short, president of the Institute of Engineering and Technology, so a very, very established foundation, said that at the moment there are more mobile phones on the planet than there are toothbrushes. So it gives you an idea about penetration, access, and growth. Let's have a look at the drivers behind the adoption of m-commerce. Why is mobile, specifically smartphones, so important? Let me take a quick step back. What is a smartphone from Google's perspective? We look at it as a smartphone as any device with a full WebKit browser, enabling you to render an HTML page on your mobile phone. Ideally, that web page is made for mobile. So it runs within the confines of the screen. We call it running on Rails. But it also renders just as well a desktop page that you may have to tap in to see the content or pinch and zoom. But what we're seeing is two things. One is more and more mobile sites, but mainly the biggest driver to date has been applications. Things like Angry Birds. 125 years of Angry Birds played every single day. I'm partially responsible for that. My wife's probably responsible for a lot more. But on a global basis, 125 years every day played on mobile phones. Why? Because it's personal, it entertains us. It's easy to do. You can snack on the bus, you can do it when you're in front of the TV. And then YouTube. So as we see more and more smartphones evolve to have Wi-Fi enabled technology, video is becoming a real cultural driver of adoption. So on YouTube, we see 200 million playbacks of video content every day. The world's #1 destination for video content is YouTube on desktop. The world's #2 destination for video content is YouTube on mobile. Mobile's immediate. So a good example of this is with hotels and the travel industry and the way that consumers book hotel reservations. Desktop, 45% of consumers book their destination a day before arrival. You take that onto mobile, all of a sudden it spikes at 82%. Consumers are using that immediacy of mobile to engage with whatever content they may be looking for, in this instance hotel bookings. And then mobile's local. We can see our search logs, and within those search logs we are able to slice and dice searches from desktop, searches via mobile. Not only would you see massive growth across every vertical, near double-digit growth, we're also seeing the change in search queries coming in from mobile phones. So 1 in 3 queries now have location intent. What is location intent? It's where am I relative to a store? What are the store opening times? What time's the film on? And what we're seeing is that we're seeing changing consumer habits around use of search, mobile versus desktop. And then mobile is the ultimate shopping companion. We'll dig down into this in a minute. But 79% of smartphone internet users use their phones to go shopping. Be that price comparison, be it looking for location of the store, but also when in store, consumers are using their mobile phones. Now, in a pure play world, where that engagement to purchase on a smartphone can be facilitated by one click on Amazon, that's very easy. But one of the big problems we're seeing is that retailers need to understand, what does attribution look like? If I research on my mobile phone, but then purchase in store, how do I understand the influence on that purchase in store as a result of desktop and now mobile? Change is cyclical. This is a graph which shows adoption of different media to reach the first 50 million users. You can see that radio took nearly 40 years. TV, just under 10 years. Internet took nearly 4 years to reach 50 million users. The iPhone did it in 3 years. The accompanying statistic, which is really impressive with this slide, is that there are 4 billion mobile phones on the planet. It took 20 years to get from 0 to 1 billion. It took less than a year to get from 3 billion to 4 billion. So the adoption of smartphones and mobile phone technology is spiking very quickly. As a result, now 90% of the global population have access to the mobile network, and there are 1 billion mobile internet users globally. If we look at that in the UK, this is data from Comscore back in August, and it says that now, in terms of all phones in the UK, about 21 million of those are smartphones. That translates to about 41% of the UK's population now being able to access the internet via their mobile phone. When I did this presentation earlier in the year, that was around 36%. So we're seeing quick growth in terms of a large base. What does that translate into time of use? So we're now seeing 1 in 4 minutes, basically 25% of all time online is via a mobile phone. That equates to about 32 minutes on a daily basis per user. This is a statistic from Mary Meeker. Mary Meeker is the self-proclaimed godmother of mobile. She's an analyst with Morgan Stanley, or was an analyst with Morgan Stanley. And each year she does a release all about the mobile space and technology. She said, in 2012, we see smartphones and tablets overtake sales of PCs and laptops. Nice, bold statistic. Well, she was wrong. That happened in Q4 2010. This time last year, the numbers of mobile phones and tablets overtook, in terms of shipments, the numbers of PCs and laptops being shipped. And then what do we see when we see a consumer access the internet via their mobile phone? Firstly, this is a smartphone. You make the move from a feature phone or WAP, traditional old school based mobile internet device. As soon as consumers make the move onto a smartphone, we see 50 times the volume of search query. And then from smartphones, we see 50% of all mobile browsing start with a search, which is great because it's incremental to desktop, but it also reflects what we see on desktop, that you start with a search and then go onward through content. So what we've had for the last couple of years is, hey, 2009, 2010, this will be the year of mobile. I think we need to take a step back and say, okay, we are definitely reaching robust levels of mobile internet access via smartphones, but what we now need to look at is the next decade. Specifically, how handsets ship, how consumers use them, that's where we're at today. But by 2015, what are those consumers doing with mobile phones? What are the volumes of payments? We'll come on to that in a minute. So let's have a look at the mobile commerce landscape. On a global basis, mobile payments are making an impact around the world. This traditionally has been led by the Far East. Japan and South Korea have had NFC, another buzzword for the year, capabilities built into old phones, or older WAP phones, feature phones as we'd refer to, for the last 10 years. Why? Well, the phones may be bulky, but it makes it nice and easy for consumers to pay, like you with your Oyster card, but swiping your mobile phone instead of swiping a card. Japan and South Korea have been drivers of this. Anyone remember this guy? Up until about 3 years ago, this was about the total sum of the parts of most people's m-commerce experience. Paying for something over SMS, be it Crazy Frog ringtone, be it maybe tickets, maybe you'd gone to Orange 2-for-1 Wednesdays. SMS had been the driver behind mobile commerce. With the advent of the App Store, the arrival of the Android marketplace, Apple's iTunes, all of a sudden consumers found themselves engaging with the mobile internet without necessarily even appreciating it, downloading apps over the air to their device, syncing with their computer. The App Store really drove forward the way that consumers started engaging with the mobile internet, but more specifically, they started doing payments, in-app purchases, things like Farmville, buying grain for your chickens, all the way up to one-tap purchasing with an Amazon. But now we're having a second dawn. People have said, okay, applications are great. We'll create an application. And there's for a long time been a chairman's wife syndrome where said, hey, love, our company's got an application. She says, well, that's great, love, but what does it do? And it's very much like the internet 10 years ago. Having an internet page was important, but not necessarily knowing how to use it and engage consumers onto your internet page, and then knowing what to do with them once you've got them there, meant that with applications, if you were having exactly the same problem. Many companies are going out building applications without necessarily having the consumer in mind and saying, what are we going to do with the consumer once we get them to download our application? In terms of mobile sites, we're seeing a new dawn. We're seeing more and more mobile sites move away from being either desktop versions of, or repurposed desktop versions, either terrible experiences where you have to pinch and zoom, or transcoded desktop content where it's a much better experience in terms of the consumer knows that they're on a made-for-mobile environment, to Best Buy's launch a couple of weeks ago. Best Buy's site is one of the best mobile sites in the country. Go and have a look. Why? Well, they think about the consumer first. They think about the consumer's journey across their mobile internet presence, across their tablet presence, but also across their desktop presence. Best Buy have 3 different strategies, and their content reflects that on site accordingly. First thing you see when you get to Best Buy's site is, hey, congratulations, you've made our mobile site. Let's give you a little tour about it. Now, second time you come, you may not see that. But what they're doing is they're basically educating the consumer about what Best Buy's site may do for that consumer, and accordingly, that site may have features and functionality built into it, which means that it's purely only ever going to be seen on mobile, because maybe the consumer's opted into showing their location. So the desktop content wouldn't reflect that, whereas the mobile content on the site may take that location information and say, okay, relative to where you are, this store has got special offers, or maybe this store has no product because we've got a product, or Best Buy providing a product feed to their mobile site. This really exemplifies the app versus site strategy. This is IKEA's mobile app and mobile site. As a consumer, I'm at that age now where the IKEA catalogue is quite interesting for me. I use it quite a lot. I've got the IKEA catalogue application on my mobile phone, which is great. I can sit down, I can flick through the application in my own time. It's quite nice, it's updated regularly, but it's a very heavy application. It's 81 megabyte in weight. My point being this: the site on the right-hand side is exactly what I want when I'm out and about in North London on a Saturday morning trying to find directions to the local IKEA store. I don't want to have to go via the application store on a 3G signal, download a heavyweight app, and then wait for that app to maybe not give me locations of the store or to opening times. If I can find that by doing a search, or maybe I've got the IKEA site bookmarked, I can go straight to the IKEA site and find that content specific to my need there and then. So the question we get on a regular basis is, hey, should we have a mobile site? Should we have a mobile application? And the answer is, there is no right answer. Take a look at how your consumers engage with your mobile presence. What does that consumer need? Are they going to be browsing at home on their sofa and looking at mobile application content? Or are they going to be out and about one of those three searches having location intent, and you're giving them a streamlined direct search return which gives them information about store location. So a site serves a different purpose to an app. Maybe you need both, maybe you only need one. In terms of actual growth of mobile commerce, through applications, it's forecast that this year there'll be $15 billion globally spent through applications. When we move on to that on a global footprint across the broader church of mobile marketing, be it SMS and payments at one end, all the way through to on-site purchasing or in-app purchasing at the other, somewhere in the middle you've got proximity marketing with payments, maybe NFC as it comes further down the line. It's forecast that there'll be $119 billion worth of revenue spent each year by consumers on a global basis. Now, okay, it's an analyst's idea, it's a projection into the future. But based on growth rates 2010-2011, we know that there is spectacular triple, quadruple digit growth around mobile payments. Anybody know what these four things have in common? A relatively big boat, grand piano, Stingray, and a relatively small plane. All these have been bought across eBay. And what does this mean? So eBay is seeing, based on information they released, a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of days ago, three purchases are made via their mobile internet site every second on a global basis. Why? Well, eBay are a trusted, loyal brand. A lot of them in the room will have relationships with them on desktop. They've got a really nice mobile application. They've got a really nice mobile site. But the use case for consumers is that I'm no longer tethered to my laptop or desktop. I can take my auction in my pocket and I can bid in real time against inventory or things that I want to buy on eBay. So the use case for eBay is a no-brainer. It's like, hey, let's free up our customers and give them best-in-breed experience, make it look and feel very similar to the desktop, and let's set them free to make purchases on the go. So this, when I presented it at the start of the year, was one sale every second. So if you base that on the number of sales that eBay is seeing on a global basis, a 2% hike in sales through eBay is absolutely enormous. In 2011, eBay say that they'll see about $4 billion worth of merchandise, not revenue, merchandise sold via their mobile application. But this just isn't pure play technology. It's not just eBay's and Amazon's. Amazon do make it very easy, but Paddy Power, 10% of all their bets come through mobile. If you go and have a look at Paddy Power on desktop and Paddy Power on mobile, the look and feel are the same, but again, and also tablet, Paddy Power have different mobile presences on tablet, on mobile smartphones, and then on desktop. And last year, 1/3 of all UK consumers engaged in some form of m-commerce across Christmas. It's not just impulse purchases though. Impulse purchase being, hey, I come home from the pub on a Friday night, I fire up my Amazon app, and it's one-click purchasing, which is lethally easy. I get to work on Monday, and there's 2 DVDs and a couple of books, which I didn't really mean to buy, but because they've made it easy, I've bought those. But they're impulse purchases. If I look at a slightly more considered purchase, like a pizza, again, Domino's have made it fantastically easy for the application on my phone to order pizzas relative to my location. $1 million worth of pizzas, £1 million worth of pizzas sold in just 3 months, Q4 last year. So imagine how many pizzas are being sold now. This slide's old. Some of you may have seen it before. But it goes to show that impulse and considered purchases occur just as evenly across mobile phones. M&S sold 2 of their autobiography range sofas, apparently they're very nice, across their mobile internet site. Why is that? So maybe, just maybe, it was homeowners, new homeowners who don't have a broadband connection, don't have their Wi-Fi network set up at home yet, but because they've got that trusted and loyal relationship with M&S make it nice and easy for engagement on their mobile version of their site. Maybe they've got big fat big fat buttons for male fingers. It means that those consumers that are new homeowners that don't have Wi-Fi can engage with the M&S over their phone and order sofas just as easily as they would be able to on desktop. When we layer social on top of this, we know that 40% of all tweets come from mobile phones. This is a stat from Sony. They created a VIO-specific channel within Twitter and pushed information out to their feed and measured how many of the sales came from that Twitter feed. So when you map 40% of all tweets coming onto Twitter from a mobile phone, the engagement with 1 million those, say at £1 million worth of those sales, it's going to be pretty high. Now, we're not saying that £400,000 worth of those, £400,000 worth of those sales came from mobile, but I assure you that some of those sales would have started on mobile. And again, it brings us back to the attribution piece. How many of those queries or how many of those initial interests in Sony Vaio's Twitter stream about a discounted Vaio range started on mobile, but maybe ultimately transacted on desktop or in store, but they were made aware of the Vaio promotion by Twitter on their mobile phone. So, while slightly extended, we're seeing social impact on mobile. A great example of this is by O2. This is O2 More's service. For those in the room that aren't familiar with O2 More, it's basically a service where I opt in. I give them a little bit of information about myself, maybe some qualitative lifestyle statements, maybe some quantitative data about my age, tell them my gender. And once I've provided that information, O2 More service starts pushing information to me, promotions, relative to my location. So a great example of this being I walk past Starbucks, because I provided the information and O2 know exactly where I am by triangulating my signal, they'll push me an SMS saying, hey, 50p off for coffee via Starbucks. And the redemption rate on this has been massive. So Starbucks have seen an uplift in sales which is unparalleled to any other mobile promotion they've seen. O2 More service works very nicely. So what are we doing? We're seeing the layering of location. We're incenting the consumer and providing the right message to that consumer at the right time. So we're slowly starting to reach the marketeer's utopian land. We're giving the right message to the right consumer at the right price at the right time. Other drivers of mobile commerce, this is an example of a Calvin Klein ad which is on a building site in New York. One of the problems that have always been levelled at QR codes has been that QR code adoption isn't all that high. Well, in the US, 14 million mobile users, 6.2% of the total mobile audience, according to Comscore this year, back in August, have either scanned a barcode or QR code. So what we are seeing is that consumers are willing to use their phones to engage with content, be it online or offline, and then be taken to a destination. We're seeing more and more brands, more and more goods and services having QR codes laser printed onto the side. Hell, we're even seeing TV ads. Waitrose last Christmas ran a TV ad with a QR code on it. Incredibly brave, because how many consumers are going to actually pause their TV, go up to their TV and take a photo? But of those consumers that did, Waitrose were able to get information because they put different QR codes maybe on different ads about adoption and engagement with that QR code by region. This is this year's buzzword. NFC doesn't stand for no flaming chance. NFC stands for Near Field Communications. And as I referenced earlier, what we've seen in Far East, in Japan and South Korea, has been massive adoption of NFC. And NFC is going to be a real driver behind payments. Why? Those of you who are familiar with Oyster Card are going to be familiar with how easy it is to pay for your London Underground transport or your Overground transport by literally touching your card against a terminal. NFC is already engaged for you. NFC basically allows for 1.5-inch contactless payment. So a dumb terminal at one end, but secure information held on your phone, which is transacted through maybe the cloud, allows your phone to ultimately become your wallet. One of the questions we get on a regular basis is, okay, this is great. As with all technology, what does adoption rate look like? This is a graph from a company called iSupply. IHS iSupply are basically a research company that measure the data chain. So how many suppliers have put NFC orders in with NFC chip manufacturers to be integrated into a device? And what we're seeing is that by 2015, NFC-enabled shipments will be totaling 1.5 billion. So 1.5 billion devices in market by 2015 based upon the manufacturing of chips and the supplying of that data to a research company. So we're going to see more and more devices which are NFC enabled. Many of you today will have NFC chips already in smartphones that are dormant, that haven't been activated yet. And what this goes to show is that we'll see the activation of smartphones, but also when smartphones are being sold, NFC won't be a consumer choice, it will be de facto. there won't be the ability to say, no, I don't want NFC in my phone. It will be like a camera. It will be like Wi-Fi. And then at the other end of the chain, we have merchants who have point-of-sale scanning technology. So what we're saying is, based upon ABI research, that at the other end of the chain, it's going to be de facto for more and more merchants to basically upgrade their point-of-sale scanning technology. So but by 2016, 85% of all scanning technology will automatically include NFC capabilities. So at both ends of the chain, from device manufacturers through to the retailers who are transacting the payments, it's going to organically happen. But this is already happening in the US. Google have launched their mobile wallet, which is seeing quick adoption amongst manufacturers who have the NFC given to consumers and amongst retailers who have the transacting process in store. We're making consumers' lives easy. So NFC will make consumers' lives easy, which will help with the evolution of the mobile payment space. Good example of this is Peet's Coffee and Tea. But it also highlights a problem. We also need to make sure that just because there's going to be phones in market with NFC capabilities, and because the ecosystem at the other end for taking of those payments are going to be in place, there's a gulf in the middle. And that gulf is going to be around educating consumers. Now, we think that will probably be the easier part of the two. But also, more importantly, educating all the in-store staff who need to be helping consumers along the purchase journey that first time around, saying, yep, touch your phone against this pad, making sure that the receipt prints out. So the transaction is seamless. It feels just like paying with your chip and pin is as easy as paying with your mobile phone in the near future. However, NFC at the moment is being hitched onto payments pretty much 99.9% in everybody's minds. What we need to consider is that NFC is a contactless technology that has multiple applications. Yes, it's going to be massive in terms of driving payment technology forward, but this is a good example, maybe at the extreme other end of the spectrum, about NFC can be used for driving other use applications of NFC. This is a guy who's put an RFID tag in his cat's collar. So every time his cat goes past the cat flap, his cat flap opens, lets his cat in, but doesn't let his neighbour's cats in, because his neighbour's cats don't have an RFID tag. Maybe it's extreme, but it goes to show that RFID technology, basically the identification tool at the other end of NFC, can be applied in many, many different ways. This is an example of Square. Square payments are going to be growing rapidly and coming to a phone near you soon. What we're seeing in the US is 800,000 retailers already, or 800,000 ways to pay using Square. Square is a piece of technology that is hardware stuck into your mobile phone headphone jack, and it enables everybody who has this to become capable of making and taking payments via card. So basically, Square lets the whole ecosystem of consumers become merchants. And then tablets. We mustn't forget tablets. Tablets are the elephant in the corner of the room, because people look at mobile phones, they look at desktops, say, right, we've now got a strategy for each, but also you're going to need to have a tablet strategy to understand how consumers are going to engage with your content on tablets. And what we've seen is that, based on information from eMarketeer, 41% of consumers buy tablets to help with their retail purchase process. So go shopping is their primary reason of purchase. Let's have a look at how consumers are embracing mobile. I've just been given a 5-minute sign, so excuse me if I whip through a few of these slides. This is a tool which we've recently launched. This is Mobile Planet, ourmobileplanet.com. I would recommend you to go there. This is information based on Ipsos and the MMA surveys which Google have done into market over 32 countries in Q2 this year. Basically, thousands of survey-led interviews which have been aggregated, and all the data is now available for free in an online tool where you can go and look at UK purchase behaviour of consumers. You can look at smartphone penetration of consumers and consumer attitudes towards how they see mobile phones becoming part of their life. Headline stats. This survey data shows that 28% of consumers have used their smartphone in the purchase process. But also it demonstrates where consumers are using their phones, be it at home, be it on the go, but also then mapping out probably more unexpected areas of smartphone usage. 26% of consumers use their smartphones and then doctor's surgery. So insights which are robust and valid, which can be taken by yourselves and used for your businesses, your customers' businesses, to map out the case for why mobile and why mobile commerce. Jumping quickly to this, if you add together the green and the blue, you get 36% of all searches on a weekly basis, all consumers on a weekly basis surveyed, 36% of them search from their mobile phone on a weekly basis. What do they do once they do that search? 42% actually visit the website, business or service that they found. 41% visit the business maybe physically. And then 36% maybe click to call. You make it easier from search advertising to call a business by putting that mobile phone number or putting your business's number in the ad extension box, so the consumer gets a search query on their mobile phone, touches the phone number, opens a dialer and calls your business. Then it's making the consumer's journey nice and easy. A search query made for mobile on a campaign which is split out for mobile. We'll jump this, but we know that consumers are already digesting other forms of content whilst on their mobile internet device, be it tablet or be it smartphone. Watching TV, we know that consumers, when they see an ad, there's increases in search queries. Consumers are dual screening. And then mobile's transforming everyday shopping behaviour. So 24%, a quarter of all consumers surveyed within the Ipsos data, say they carry a smartphone and compare prices. How many of your customers have Wi-Fi in store? There's two schools of thought. No, we don't want Wi-Fi in store because we don't want consumers finding out maybe our competitors have cheaper pricing. Actually, if you've got best-in-breed mobile site and you've got competitive pricing, maybe it's dynamic because you've got digital pricing, or you're encouraging consumers to scan a barcode, like in Best Buy, to find out more product information, then you want to make that consumer's journey nice and easy. You want to empower them in store. So maybe consider having Wi-Fi open access network in store. But this is where I'll wrap up. 79% of British business don't have a mobile internet presence. They don't have an app. They don't have a mobile site. So our question to you today is, of that 79%, is that your business? Or is your business already one of the 21% that do have a mobile presence? What opportunity is there to disrupt in the largest growing online environment since the internet came to life? So we're moving away from e-commerce to understanding what opportunities are there for your businesses around m-commerce. This presentation's got a few more slides, so it's going to be available via the event organisers today. I've been asked to wrap up, so at this point I'll stop and say thank you very much for your time.